Hi, everyone. It's Dr. Martha and
Rebecca Ziegler.
here with another episode of your at-home medicine bowl. So we're going to just chat with you about what we've been doing over the last few months and thinking and how we are moving through the stressors of the pandemic, et cetera, right now.
And it seems as if it's the same conversation that we had the very first time. But as Dr. Martha and I were speaking earlier, I'm back to sitting on my meditation mat longer than I was before and praying for everyone that I can think of just by name, because I feel sometimes helpless. I feel like I'm helpless to almost help myself, much less helpless to help so many that I see are needy, whether they're hungry or ill or emotionally distressed. And so I sit on my meditation mat and pray that the little bit that comes from my thoughts and direction of energy can reach somebody in need. And I know you were saying a lot the same.
Yes, and in fact, I have started a new, since we did that initial podcast on prayer, I have started a routine or a practice of every morning before I get out of bed, because I feel like once I get out of bed, feet on the floor, it's a work day. So and actually, this was a friend of mine and I. We were talking one day about just the upset of the world, the upset of us. We're both Reiki practitioners. We both know how to give long distance Reiki and what it feels like to receive long distance Reiki. So I said to her, okay, let's start out easy. 5 minutes when you wake up in the morning, let's send Reiki to the whole world. So I start by doing the Shokure symbol up here on my head, my crown chakra, so I can let the energy come in and then send Reiki to the whole world. And I started to get focused on, okay, well, now I'm going to start with this household and then that household and then the other household. And I ended up just like, you know what, that's too stressful for me. I'd rather just send Reiki to the whole, literally to the whole world, because right now our whole world is suffering. And I didn't want to have to name 195 countries. Oh, the people of Pakistan, the people of India. So I just send it to the whole world every day.
And where Dr. Martha is using Reiki, well, the practice that I use is called Jo-Ray. And so Jo-Ray is a lot the same, channeling, but not touching. And so what I do is I channel to the solar plexus or the Manipura chakra, because that is where we as humans have natural connections to whomever we've ever met. And that is what I do. So I chant some prayers in Japanese and Sanskrit and say some prayers in English that I knew as a child, and then hold my hand above the solar plexus, or in Sanskrit, it's called the Manipura chakra, and name individual names. So what Dr. Martha does, what I do, not the same, but similar, and the same in intention. We are intentioning that others receive.
And I remember when I was in graduate school, there was a study about prayer for, it was heart patients, because that was my area. And it was very simple. You have your group of people who are prayed for, you have your group of people who aren't prayed for, your what we call our control group. And it didn't matter what kind of prayer. It wasn't like Catholic prayer, Indian prayer, Native. It did not matter. It didn't matter if it was Lutheran or whatever. It was just basically I said to myself, okay, it's just energy. energy, intention, positivity, hoping that person gets well faster. And so, like what Rebecca just said, I think it's not the necessarily which kind of praying you're doing. It's just the fact that you are praying, that you are thinking, that you are intending, that you are healing others.
Yes. And because you are doing that, it's natural to feel elevated. Because when we have conversations with a friend, someone that you know cares about you, you feel safe. And so it's that same exchange. You are giving to someone else, and they can be anywhere on the planet because energy travels, light travels. And so it's that giving to another, and in giving to the other, it's like that. It's a circular movement. So it goes back and forth and so on. And then I would think, as we were saying earlier in our conversation, the beauty of it is it just radiates everywhere. And is it selfish? I've often said, is it selfish? You're just doing it so you feel better, meaning myself. And and if that's the worst selfish thing that any of us ever do, then may we be delightfully selfish in those ways of giving to someone else.
Well, and I think of it as you're right, it is selfish because when I do the shokare to get started, I do say to myself, thank you for the treatment. So that's a Reiki belief, is that when we're giving a treatment, we're receiving a treatment. And so, yes, I do say that. But we're doing it out of purity of intention.
Yes.
Our intention is pure. We are not, nobody knows we're doing it. We're not going to get thanked for it. It's not something you get paid for. We're just doing it out of the purity of intention of hoping to heal the world, heal some suffering, even for anyone. Just if even someone notices they're calmer, or they're like, for example, my friend that I said, I want you to do this 5 minutes a day. She's probably waking up now feeling better every day, just because she's doing something for others. Basically, that's what we're doing it for, even though we also receive a treatment.
Yes, absolutely. And how we begin our day is how the rest of the day goes.
Yes.
And I know for myself, when I do not turn on electrical, whether it's a phone or any kind of device that would bring in the outside world into my sphere of awakening in the morning, there was such a difference. Because in truth, what difference are we going to make by knowing that latest bit of this and that in the news, which I found it was unraveling my nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
And so to create a space, or even if it's a drinking coffee space, even if it's a looking out the window and noticing the birds chippering around near the water, or if it's watching leaves fall, or if you're in a by the ocean place watching waves roll in, whatever it might be, creating an energetic buffer around yourself for the day. Because sooner than later, the outside world will be dinging and donging and blipping and blooping, and we will have that coming into our energetic space.
And each one of those things you mentioned, seeing the birds, watching rain fall, that's one definition of meditation, is focus. And anytime you're focusing on the birds singing, focusing on looking at a candle, anytime you are focusing, it gives your body a relaxation response. So even just that in the morning, instead of just right away, like you said, looking at the news, getting information. Remember, especially visual news, when it's just coming at you without any need for you to interact with it or engage in it. It's just at you, at you, at you, at you. It's not very good for the psyche.
Yeah. And as Dr. Martha was saying about the focus, so in the work of yoga, what we would call that is dharana, which is focus. And what happens from dharana is meditation, or dhyana. So you don't have to have all the breath work in the world or all those practices. There's no reason that you will need to sit in a cave or stare at a candle or learn ancient languages in order to find meditation. You can find meditation with focus. So the dharana goes into dhyana, and dhyana is that meditation.
And we've talked about self-care. We tell, everybody says right now, if you're listening to this 2 years from now, it'll hopefully be just a vague memory. But we're 8 months now into this pandemic, and people are what we call, pandemic exhausted. And so I keep reminding my patients, self-care is important. I fell back on my self-care. I wasn't drinking as much water as I was in the beginning. And I know a hydrated body keeps your metabolism up, and the viruses really they like a dry body better than a hydrated body. Let's put it that way. So all of those self-care things we have to keep doing. And one of them is to get some sort of focus during the day, some sort of relaxation, meditation, because as we were talking earlier, and Rebecca was saying, and any of you who feel like this, you can let us know, because we'll give you our email addresses at the end. You almost feel like imploding. You feel like your core or your center, just like you kind of want to just scrunch in. And think about it. If you have things coming at you all the time, you're not going to want to stand there like, oh, I'm totally open to this. Sure, just keep bringing it in. You are going to want to feel like protecting yourself, right?
Well, as I hear you saying that, and when I had stood up, what it feels like as if you're getting punched. And
Yes.
so energetically, we are getting punched. And so we have a tendency, all of us, to wrap around. And then, of course, you can see this isn't particularly wonderful for the neck or the shoulders. So perhaps what one could do to counter that is here's your sternum, to feel the sternum lift. And so you can even take your fingers and start at the bottom of the sternum. And as you inhale, feel your fingers rise up, move up the sternum to this clavicular notch, which is this little place right here. And then exhale and bring the hand down. Inhale as you bring the fingers at the base of the sternum. Inhale, the fingers go up to the clavicular notch. And exhale, bringing the right arm down. Inhale, bringing the left fingers up as you bring the fingers gently up the sternum to that clavicular notch. And exhale, arm down. One more time. Fingers at the base of the sternum. Inhale as you gently press up towards the clavicular notch. Exhale and round. So let your awareness go to the sternum. And if you can feel, this is your breastbone, right? And on birds, their little breastbones, they're not this way. They have their sweet little breastbones lifted.
They do. You're right. It's very, very open. And I think of that in Chinese medicine as our spirit is more open because we don't have that armor that we can get when we're kind of hunched over like that. Because right now we need to have open spirits because there's joy out there. I know it's a little harder because, as Rebecca said, it's just punch after punch after punch, especially if you watch the news. But if you maybe think about your smaller sphere, there is joy in the world. Like I said, I mean, we both get joy out of praying for others or sending Reiki to others. It's a joyful thing to think that you are helping others in such a kind of an innocent way.
Yes. Or even, since we both happen to have grandchildren, but perhaps some of you listening have children, or I would say some of you have pets. You could have a chameleon, pet your chameleon. It's that sense of touch, and that when we have touch with our own selves, I mean, we can do this, but it's a little more delightful when you can be petting your pet, or even touching shoulders to a friend, or if you're one of the blessed ones who has permission to hug your grandchildren, or there are so many of those ways. And I know that, yes, they call some of us tree huggers, and it was a terminology, but you don't even have to hug the tree. The Druids had a practice, and they would place their backs up against a tree and lean into the tree. And so you could let your breastbone open and lean into the tree and feel that wonderful symbiosis of the energy of the tree and you. And if any of you have ever wondered what grounding feels like, and you go, I don't know what grounding feels like, go put your back against a tree. And I think you will sense what grounding feels like, because it goes all the way down. As you lean in, you can feel your feet just be placed on the earth, because I know they're placed on the earth, yes. But I believe, as Dr. Martha had mentioned in the beginning, we can sometimes be not anywhere except perhaps more in our heads. And if she didn't say that, it might have been part of the conversation that we had earlier, and it seems like we said it here, but however.
It's true. I mean, when you think about energy, like even the physics of energy, our laptops are a very packed in set of atoms, right? And this is atoms, and the air is atoms. Well, when you're against that tree, in theory, your atoms, well, it's not even in theory, okay, we'll call it in theory, in reality, really, your atoms, the being of you is connecting with that tree. So it makes sense that two living things would be able to sense the same feeling. So
Yes.
you would be able to sense that belonging, that grounding, that attachment to the Mother Earth.
Yeah. And as I'm hearing you saying all that, Dr. Martha, what it brings to mind to me is belonging. Because when I get my most scattered or feeling untethered, it's about I'm not feeling belonging to. And during this particular time during COVID, where it seems like we're edging our way a little closer to more lockdown, not that we have yet, and perhaps we will not go that direction, but we're belonging, but we're not belonging. I mean, and I think what I've heard both of us saying is that our reason for praying too is feeling like belonging. It's that energy exchange of giving and receiving. And so being planted up against a tree and having that sense of presence with another, albeit a tree, have that sense of presence with another, it's like we belong. And that's one of the more difficult pieces with the COVID and being, because we can be belonging to a greater whole, but it can seem very small and isolated.
Well, yes, and it's partly because, I mean, some doctor said, don't share air with others. So you think to yourself, well, how could I be more isolated than not to share air with others? Now, obviously, she meant don't be next to someone without a mask that you don't know and you're sharing their air. She doesn't mean, but the thing about with like, for example, the tree, and you just receive. I mean, think about just receiving that. Receive that beauty, receive that energy, receive that life, receive the connection to the earth without any guilt. Trees are there for us. They are not thinking in their mind, and what are you going to give me right now back? What are I mean, we can just say thank you. Oh, thank you so much. I honor you so much for being there and being, ever present every season in my life. And I appreciate that the healing or the essence you just gave me. We don't have to, give back all the time. It's okay to receive.
Oh, without question. Yes. In fact, if you have someone at your home, it can even be a little person, or it can be a mate, or it can be whomever. If they, one of the practices I use when teaching is to have two students sit back to back, spine to spine, and have that gentle leaning in to another, as we've talked about with the tree. And there's such a sense of belonging, because you feel that other person and you can feel their breathing. And I guess during this particular time, you're not breathing on them, nor are they breathing in you. But
Right.
if they're in your home, it doesn't make any difference anyway.
Right.
But again, it's that sense, as you were saying, about feeling and receiving and giving. So there it is.
So we hope that you enjoyed listening and hearing our ideas about how to stay healthy and calm always, not only during these times. So we're going to do our little, as usual, ending experience, and then we will give you our contact information.
All right. So if you are seated, if you are standing, whichever the case may be, kind of press in on the right heel, press in on the left heel, and feel the toes press down on both feet, right and left. So an equal pressure. If you have shoes on, works the same with shoes. And let the breath come in, drop all the way down as low as it wants to go in the body. And then placing your left hand on your heart, not a heart chakra, but that just about the center place of your beautiful breastbone that we were feeling today. And then your right hand on top of your left. And if for some reason your right hand wants to go first and the left hand on top, follow your own hands, please. And gently press in until you can feel not a metaphysical heart, not a spiritual heart, but a physical beating heart in your body. And then repeat after me, please. With great respect and love.
With great respect and love.
I honor my heart.
I honor my heart.
My inner teacher.
My inner teacher.
And it's from that place of great honoring for your own heart, that it's from that overflow that you give out to others.
All right. If you want to contact us, we are both available by email. Mine is drmlucas at acupuncturewoman.com. So drmlucas at acupuncturewoman.com.
And mine is, and if you've heard some of our past podcasts, you will hear it's different than it is this time. So this is a new email, raziegler.syt @gmail.com. And SYT stands for Structural Yoga Therapy, which I'm able to work with people via Zoom or FaceTime. I don't know, I'm sure there's I think there's other platforms, but those for sure, with structural yoga therapy. So thank you.
All right. Take care.